You ever tried throwing a perfect punch and just ended up slapping the air like an idiot? Yeah, same. But imagine perfecting that punch for centuries, turning it into an art, a weapon, a philosophy. That's karate. But hold up, it did not start as the crisp, disciplined form that we know today. No, its history is way wilder than you would expect. So before we get to Japan, let's hit rewind, way back. Before black belts, before dojo standoffs, before anyone even knew what a kata was, people were already out here throwing hands, literally. Picture this, Mesopotamia thousands of years ago. Ancient carvings show dudes grappling, punching, and probably arguing over whose turn it was to rule the city-state. Meanwhile, over in India, monks were figuring out self-defense, not just for survival, but because sitting in one spot meditating all day makes you an easy target. Enter Bodhidharma, the legendary wandering monk who, according to some, and by some we mean legend, hearsay, and wishful thinking, brought the real deal to China. He strolled into the Shaolin temple sometime in the 5th or 6th century, took one look at the exhausted monks, and went, "Y'all need to toughen up." So he introduced breathing techniques, strength training, and fighting drills, the kind that eventually evolved into Shaolin Kung Fu. Now why does this matter? Because these ideas did not stay in China. Thanks to trade routes, the knowledge starts spreading like ancient TikTok trends, making its way down to a small island called Okinawa. And that's where things really start heating up. So there we were, Okinawa 1400s, a tiny island smack in the middle of the East China Sea, trying to mind its own business. But guess what? The rulers were not having it. Enter King Shohashi. The guy pulls a power move, unifies Okinawa, and is like, "Alright, we're done with wars, let's just all chill." And by chill, he means nobody gets to carry weapons anymore. Fun, right? Fast forward to 1477 and King Shoshin takes it up a notch. No swords, no knives, nothing. Even the samurai have to pack light. It's basically all the medieval version of strict airport security. So now the peasants who still had to deal with, crime and invaders are left thinking, cool, so how do we even fight back? That's when the locals start getting creative. Instead of swords, they turn to the one thing they do have. Hands. Welcome to te, or tea, depending on who you ask. It's raw, practical, and it's designed to mess you up without getting caught. But wait, here's where things get spicy. Okinawa was not just some isolated rock in the middle of nowhere. Thanks to trade with China, a whole wave of martial arts influence starts creeping in. The 36 Chinese families roll up with their fancy Chuan Fa, which was basically the early Kung Fu, and suddenly tea is not just tea anymore. It's evolving, getting slicker, more refined, blending local street fighting techniques with Chinese combat wisdom. And because Okinawans are not just about throwing punches, they start weaponizing everyday objects. Ever seen a nunchaku? Yeah, it started as a rice threshing tool. A sai? Basically a glorified pitchfork. You get the idea. And all of this, it's happening in secret, because surprise surprise, the ruling class were not exactly thrilled about their weapon ban being hacked by farm tools. So these early martial artists train at night in hidden courtyards behind closed doors. Karate is not even called karate yet. At this point, it's still Tode, meaning China hand. But that name, that's gonna change real soon. So there we were, 1609, Okinawa doing its thing, evolving its secret combat art, when bam! The Shimazu clan from Japan shows up, kicks down the metaphorical door, and invades the island. And just to make sure nobody gets any rebellious ideas, they enforce a strict weapons ban again. That's right, the Okinawas just got double banned from defending themselves. At this point, the locals are like, alright fine, no swords, no problem, we'll just make our fists even deadlier. And just like that, Tode, aka the China hand, shifts into survival mode. Forget fancy showmanship. This is straight up no-nonsense break your attacker's face combat. The moves get sharper, the strikes get harder, and the techniques more lethal than ever. As this underground martial art mutates, three major styles emerge. You've got Shorite, all about fast, explosive strikes, because fun fact, it was originally developed by the royal bodyguards protecting Okinawan kings. Then there is Nahate, the up-close, breathe like a dragon style, heavily inspired by Chinese boxing. And finally, Tomarate, which is like the middle child, balanced, adaptive, and good at both offense and defense. Fast forward to 1806 and we meet Sakukawa Kanga, aka the father of Okinawan karate. This guy takes what was basically secret street fighting and actually actually organizes it, makes it teachable, passes it down. Revolutionary. And his star student, a guy named Matsumura Sokon. Now, Matsumura was not just any martial artist, he was the personal bodyguard to the Ryukyu King, which, let's be real, it's probably the best job title an early karate master could have. He helped shape what would eventually become modern karate, proving that this was not just some peasant brawling technique, it was a serious martial discipline. Oh, and did we mention, Matsumura once fought a bull, and won. Yeah, karate had officially entered beast mode. Around this time, we also see the rise of kata, those structured pattern movements you still see in dojos today. Why? Because sparring was way too dangerous when everyone was trained to fight like their life depended on it. So instead, practitioners drilled these sequences over and over again to sharpen their skills without actually killing each other. Karate was evolving, but it was still a shadow game, hidden, underground, passed down through whispers and secret training sessions. That was about to change. So there we were, karate was still kind of a back alley, bodyguard only, fight for your life kind of deal. Not exactly something you would teach your kid right after recess. And then enter Anko Itosu, the man who basically saved karate from either dying in obscurity or staying a secret weapon for brawlers and assassins. Before Itosu, karate was not something the general public learned. It was more like an underground fight club, except the first rule of this fight club was that you never spoke about it. Ever. It was brutal, deadly, and tailored for people whose day job involved not getting stabbed. But Itosu, he looked at this raw, vicious combat style and thought, hey, maybe we shouldn't be teaching people how to straight up end each other. So in 1901, he did something insane. He got karate into Okinawan schools. That's right. Karate, which had been a lethal tool of bodyguards and rebels for centuries, was suddenly part of gym class. But obviously he could not just teach kids the same techniques that were designed to break bones and crush throats. So he softened it up, dialed back the kill moves and made it more structured, more like a sport. A series of movements that are still practiced worldwide today. If you have ever taken a karate class, odds are you have done one of these. They were designed to be teachable, repeatable, and most importantly safe. It was the first time karate was not just for warriors, it was for regular civilians. And here is the kicker, his students went on to spread karate worldwide. We're talking about legends like Gishin Funakoshi, the guy who would bring karate to mainland Japan and make it the global phenomenon that it is today. Itosu was not just a teacher, he was a game changer. The guy who took karate from an underground survival technique to something anyone could learn. Little did he know karate was about to explode onto the world stage. Fast forward to 1917 and karate, this underground Okinawan fist-fighting self-defense masterpiece, finally steps into the spotlight. And who's the guy making it happen? Gishin Funakoshi, a student of Anko Itosu and the future father of modern karate. So there we were in Kyoto, Japan at the first ever public karate demonstration. Up until this moment, karate had been this mysterious island secret. But Funakoshi, he steps up, cracks his knuckles, and boom! Japan gets its first real taste of what Okinawa had been cooking up for centuries. And just like that, karate was no longer some hush-hush island combat system. It was officially on Japan's radar. But there was a small problem. The name. See, at this point karate was still called Tode, which literally meant China hand. And well, Japan was not exactly on the best of terms with China at the time. So, in a move that was half marketing genius and half political survival, Funakoshi went on for a full rebrand. The new name? Karate, but now it meant empty hand instead of China hand. Same pronunciation, completely different meaning. Boom, crisis averted. And Funakoshi was not just about changing the name, he changed the entire vibe of karate. Before, it was all about how do I take out an opponent before he takes me out. But Funakoshi added discipline, philosophy, and deeper meaning. He turned it into Karate Do, the way of the empty hand. A full-on lifestyle. You were not just throwing punches anymore. You were building character, finding balance, and being a better human. Meanwhile, Japan was, let's say, going through some things. The 1930s roll in, and karate, just like everything else in Japan, starts getting militarized. Now, instead of just training for self-improvement, karate was becoming part of nationalism, discipline, and preparing for war. Oh, and ever wonder where that whole colored belt system came from? Well, thank Funakoshi for that, and also judo. See, he borrowed the whole ranking system from judo's founder, Jigoro Kano. White belts for beginners, black belts for masters. That was a judo thing first, but karate saw it and went, yoink, that's ours now. Karate started spreading fast, especially in universities. Suddenly, Tokyo had dojos, students were bowing in crisp white gi uniforms, and in the 1936, the first official Shotokan dojo, Funakoshi's style, was opened in Japan. And just like that, karate had officially been absorbed into Japanese culture. It was no longer just an Okinawan thing, but trust me, Okinawa never forgot. And then, boom, World War II happens, and karate, this ancient hard-earned martial art, nearly gets wiped off the map. By 1945, Okinawa, the birthplace of karate, is unrecognizable. The US invades, and the Battle of Okinawa turns the island into an apocalyptic war zone. The city of Shuri, the heart of karate, the place where masters trained, where traditions were passed down, is bombed into literal dust. Historical documents burned, dojos leveled, karate masters, many of them did not make it. And if that was not bad enough, after the war, the US bans all martial arts in Japan. The country had just spent years training soldiers to fight in hand-to-hand combat, and well, the American occupation was not exactly looking to keep that going. Judo, kendo, and sumo all banned, but karate completely ignored. Why? Because in the grand scheme of things, karate was not that famous yet. It wasn't considered military-grade deadly like judo or kendo, so it kinda just slipped through the cracks, and that saved it. And then something unexpected happens. American soldiers stuck in Okinawa with way too much free time start training in karate. They bring it home, and suddenly karate is not just an Okinawan or Japanese thing anymore. It's about to explode onto the world stage. Meanwhile, back in Japan, a guy named Mas Oyama is about to make karate 100 times scarier. In the 1950s, he creates Kyokushin Karate, a full contact knockdown style where you don't just spar, you fight until someone literally collapses. Oyama himself was so hardcore that he fought live bulls to test his strength. No, seriously, he straight up punched bulls in the face. And just like that, karate becomes unstoppable. By the 1970s, it's no longer just a martial art, it's a full-blown global movement. Everybody wants in. Karate schools pop up everywhere, and suddenly your weird neighbor Dave is walking around in a gi, talking about his spiritual journey after 2 lessons. But let's be real, karate's global explosion? 2 words. Bruce Lee. This dude single-handedly makes martial arts the coolest thing on the planet. He's out here flying through the air, kicking people into next week, and making those legendary fight screams. He was not even doing karate, it was more Jeet Kune Do, but nobody cared. To the world, it was all the same, and people were obsessed. And then the 1980s arrive, and along with it, the greatest underdog movie of all time, The Karate Kid 1984. Wax on, wax off, instant cultural reset. Suddenly, everyone is signing up for karate classes, dreaming of crane kicking their school bully in the face. Dojos are flooded. Kids are stretching in their living rooms, sweeping the leg of their unsuspecting siblings. If Bruce Lee made karate cool, The Karate Kid made it a way of life. But while Hollywood is making karate look cinematic, something else is happening. Tournaments. Karate transforms into a competitive sport. Point fighting, kata competitions, world championships. And at the top of that game, Chuck Norris. Yeah, before he became the internet's favorite meme, Chuck Norris was a legit karate world champion. Multiple times. He did not just roundhouse kick people into jokes, he did it for real. And then 1993 happens, the UFC is born and karate walks into a reality check. Traditional martial artists step into the cage, expecting to wax on, wax off their way to victory, only to get choked out in 30 seconds by Brazilian jiu-jitsu fighters. Turns out, karate was not quite unstoppable after all. By the 2000s, it's clear, karate has 2 identities. On one side, you've got traditionalists keeping the art alive, kata by kata. On the other, fighters who realized that in an actual street fight, a well-placed spinning hook kick is cool, but not always practical. Enter the evolution. Karate mixes with kickboxing, MMA, and self-defense systems. Suddenly, we've got karate fighters showing up in the UFC, proving that yes, karate still works if you tweak it. Enter Lyoto Machida, a Shotokan master who starts knocking out dudes left and right, reminding everyone that karate is not just for movie montages. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, karate is chasing Olympic glory. And finally, after literal decades of waiting, in 2016 the dream comes true. Karate is officially accepted into the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. Cue the celebrations, fireworks, karateka around the world crying tears of joy. Fast forward to 2021, the big debut happens. Karate is finally in the Olympics. Millions tune in, and medals are won. Champions are crowned. And then, boom, it's gone. Yep, the Olympics immediately dropped karate for Paris 2024, because apparently breakdancing is the new priority. Yeah, breakdancing. Karate fans furious, confused, considering throwing a Kumiite challenge at the IOC headquarters. But let's be real, karate does not need the Olympics, it never did. Because while the world of sports karate plays by the rules, bare-knuckle karate makes a comeback. Fighters are out here brawling with no gloves, throwing elbows, proving that maybe, just maybe, karate is circling back to its brutal roots. And now in the modern era, we've got three factions of karate. So on one side you've got sport karate, high speed, point fighting, lightning fast kicks, and clean techniques that look great under stadium lights. It's all about scoring points, precision, and making sure your opponent barely taps you before the ref jumps in. Good for medals? Absolutely. Good for a real fight? Not so much. Then there is traditional karate, the soul of the art. This is where you will find the deep stances, the katas passed down for centuries, and the philosophy that karate is not just about fighting. It's about discipline, respect, and a lifetime of dedication. No shortcuts, no gimmicks, just pure old school mastery. And then there is reality-based karate, these street fighters. The ones who take all the discipline and training but add a little what happens when someone actually tries to swing at you in a dark alley. Yeah, they will still do the katas, but they are also making sure that they know how to wreck someone in a real fight. No rules, no refs, just efficiency and survival. And the big debate rages on. Which version is the real karate? Which one is the future? Should karate be more about honor and tradition, or about being the most dangerous person in the room? The answer? Who cares? Because no matter what side you're on, one thing's for sure. Karate is never going away.